Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Mental Roots. It's me, Nathan Ade. And yeah, if you've been listening already, thank you for the support. Thank you for sending me some messages as well about how this podcast is helping you. This is just a small sort of podcast that I started mainly in conjunction with a short film that I'm working on with Rural Media's new creative scheme, and it's being commissioned by the BBC. It's a short film about young Black British male mental health. It's quite a lot of words. But yeah, so it's kind of a fictional story, but it's based on real experiences that I'm researching through this podcast and outside this podcast as well. I'm just talking with many different Black British people about their experiences and kind of how they perceive mental health and how we can empower ourselves mentally as Black Brits. And today I'm here with the amazing Izekor. Did I say that correctly?
It's Izekor.
Izekor.
Nathan.
Nathan. Actually, you know what? My surname's Ade. It's not. Yeah, Ade. Nathan Ade.
I think we get really used to like the Englishized versions of
The Englishized. Yeah. Wait, say your surname again?
It's Isaac Izekor.
Izekor.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Izekor. See, I like it. Yeah. But it's always funny when you know the scenario. I'm sure you've had this loads of times where your teacher in school mispronounces your surname. What's like the most funny pronunciation you've heard?
Izekor, I think is.
Izekor.
I think it's like it's like the I becomes an I and E, and it's super strange.
The funniest one I've heard is Adai. I think someone said Adai before.
Yeah,
but more often than not, it's Adai, and it's not Adai, it's Ade.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I think it's a we talk actually. I guess we'll get into this later on, but like. So yeah, I'm Isaac. I am a creative copywriter that works in the branding and creative industries, and I'm also one of the co-founders of Nuff Said, which is a creative collective, which is basically trying to do work, creating projects, launching initiatives that can help make the creative industries more diverse. And one of the things, actually, because you suddenly just reminded me, one of the things we talk a lot about with Nuff Said and with the people we work with Nuff Said is how the majority culture in the UK specifically is white, and therefore white things are normalized, and then there is a degree of discomfort with non-white issues. So even like getting people's name right, that's not a lot of people who are white have had to experience the stress of, is this person going to be able to pronounce my name? What do I do when this person doesn't know how to pronounce my name?
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, let's just get into your kind of background, where you grew up. Have you always lived in London? In fact, before you get into it, I'll just give some context to how we know each other for the listeners. So I used to go Ravensbourne. I can't believe we finished our degree now. Time's flown. But
every time someone talks to me like, "Oh, what are you doing now?" It's like, "Oh, I'm graduated, aka unemployed officially," because everyone's unemployed for a bit.
Yeah,
get a job hopefully.
Yeah. So yeah, I went to Ravensbourne uni. Shout out Ravensbourne. I actually missed that place. Look, very exciting place.
I do not at all. I'm very happy to be graduated.
It's a weird thing with uni. You kind of miss it, but then you're kind of happy it's over.
Love the people. I don't want to. If hey Derek, hey Brian, hey Steve, if you're listening, I love you guys, but I felt like 3 years was enough in that place.
Yeah, for real, yeah. But yeah, I did my foundation diploma there, and then the first year of my degree. In hindsight, I met you far too late. I should have met you much earlier. But I got in contact with you, I think it was mainly through the Christian Union, was it? Yeah. Shout out Guy, shout out Tyler, shout out who else? few other people I'm forgetting.
Tons of other people.
Yeah, yeah, and I really wish I bonded with you guys earlier. It was literally as soon as I met sort of Guy, I said I'm already about to transition to University of Derby. So,
Mm.
but yeah, I think that was the main way I got to know you, and then I kind of knew about your musical side as well, and I was like, okay, this guy's pretty creative. Um, but yeah, I forgot what course you did. What course did you do again?
I did advertising and brand design.
That's the one. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So yeah, and then so on and off here and there, I kind of kept in contact with you, and then I guess our degrees got the better of us, and we just had to focus on our work. But yeah, sorry, just so you've introduced yourself, but also just tell us your background, where you grew up. Have you always been a Londoner? And how did you come to, like, what was your creative journey like growing up as well?
Okay, so I was born in Nigeria. My I need to get this right. My mom is Yoruba, my dad's Benin.
Okay.
And I grew up there for 5 years, and then moved over with my mum and my dad to London, and I've been in London since then for the last, I think, oh gosh, 17 years. Nathan, I'm 22.
Oh, wow.
That's a painful realization.
Mm.
But yeah, so I've been in London for basically the majority of my life, the majority of my growing life.
Did you
My
still go back to Nigeria
No, I haven't been back since I've
or
moved.
holiday or?
No, my parents have, and they've also threatened to send me back whenever I wasn't behaving properly.
Oh, we've all had that. We've all had
but
that.
but they're yet to properly ship me off. So no, London specifically Southeast London has been my home for the last 17 years.
Oh, wow. Kind of similar for me. It's weird because I'm told now that I've spent 4 years of my life in Ghana in total, but I don't remember the first three. I think it was when I was a baby, pretty much. I was born in Leicester, moved to London kind of straight after I was born, and then I spent apparently the first 2 or 3 years of my life in Ghana. But then the last time I went to Ghana was for the whole of year two, actually. So I went schooling there. And at the time, it felt like I was being sent off for being naughty, because I remember being quite naughty in year one. So that was probably part of the reason why I went to Ghana for a year. But
Did it
I
help?
still remember it sorry, say that again.
Did it help? Did Ghana stop you from
You
being
know
naughty?
what? I think it did, because I remember, the discipline there. As you can imagine, you've got the cane in the classroom. I didn't get smacked too many times. It could have been worse, to be
Oh,
fair.
I don't know how I feel about that. I do not know how I feel about that.
Although one of the worst punishments we had was it seemed that the whole class was misbehaving, right? And the teacher was so angry. So what he made us do was go to the front of the classroom, and we all had to do like squats continually until we were tired. And then I remember some children were crying. I was like, remembering it now, it makes me laugh. But at the time, it was just like, I'll never be naughty again.
So strange.
It was a very strange punishment. Now that I come to remember it, but regardless, like, it was a great experience. It taught me discipline. It taught me to be grateful for what I have, and I remember behaving quite differently when I came back to England. So, but I mean, I'll always remember it. I've never been to Ghana since then. So I came back. So that was the year 2004 to 2005, and ever since then, we've never been able to go to Ghana. But it's always going to be one of those memories I carry with me. So
It's a formative memory. It's like part of your
oh yeah,
brain.
definitely. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, we digress. Let's continue with your upbringing and kind of growing up. What was it like being in primary school, secondary school, and your creative journey as well? And kind of, yeah.
So, I mean, to kind of highlight real quick, I was not born to be a creative. My dad studied accounting when he was back in Nigeria, and then when we came over to the UK, he worked as a youth worker, specifically helping young people, disadvantaged people in care, to be able to get
Mm.
job roles and to be able to kind of get the right education to get into work. My
Mm.
mum was an English teacher in Nigeria. She came over here. She became a nurse for a bit, then was a healthcare assistant, and
Mm.
then it has that, and then was a midwife and has been a midwife for years at this point. So
Wow.
like my my upbringing was very much like maths,
Mm.
chemistry, biology, physics. Like my dad's taught me maths all the way up to secondary school, and I was quite a bright child, and I think this is the case for a lot of really smart children. Is when you're smart, they give you the tough subjects, quote unquote, the tough subjects.
Yeah.
Um, so my teachers always pushed me down the science, education, academic route.
Mm.
And also like I loved it as well. I knew I was intelligent. I liked the pressure of achieving, and I enjoyed all of the stuff that was associated with academics. So growing up through primary school, and then going to secondary school, I went to Chisholm and Sidcup Grammar. Um,
Mm.
and throughout my experience there as well, it was very much like, oh no, I'm a quote unquote academic. That's what I do. From a really young age, I wanted to be a doc. I knew I wanted to be a doctor, specifically a neurosurgeon. And
Mm.
again, no teacher, when you come up to them and you're like, I want to be a doctor, looks at you and goes, "That's a bad idea. Don't do that." You know,
Yeah.
um, it's a, like no one tells you not to become a medical doctor. No one tells you not to
Yeah.
push for the sciences, especially when you're smart enough to do it. So
Yeah.
that was the majority of my secondary school life. What were my GCSEs? My GCSEs were something ridiculous. I think I took Latin, history,
Mm.
German, and drama. Drama was my drama with it. Like in 7 years of secondary school education, drama was my only creative subject.
Wow.
Um, and I got to sixth form, same sixth form, Chisholm and Sidcup.
Mm.
You want to be a doctor, then it's triple science and maths.
Mm.
I was the head of my medical society at Chisholm and Sidcup.
Wow.
But like just to paint the picture of like I was going to be a doctor. Like my future was medicine. Everything about me screamed medicine. Um,
Wow.
and I think even like it's quite funny actually because I looking back, I can see some really key parts of my character that would have said, actually, maybe there's a creative person here as well, which I just completely ignored.
Mm.
Um, so I self-taught myself guitar from about 15 years old. I started learning how to produce music from 16 years old.
Wow.
For me, that was like a super hobby. I loved it, but it was a hobby.
Yeah.
Uh, for all of my drama GCSEs, I wrote all of the scripts for our personal performances, and I loved it as well. I loved the stories. I loved thinking about the characters. I loved like creating themes that other people could understand through stories.
Mm.
Um, and it was only my GCSE English teacher that was like, Isaac, I think you should take English A level. Everyone else was just like, yep, uh, here's Dr. Izekor. Here's the future Dr. Izekor.
Wow. Okay. What made you? Okay, so let's go to like the end of sixth form.
Mm,
What made you want to choose digital? Like, sorry, what was it again?
advertising and brand design.
Advertising and brand design. Yeah.
I didn't. I chose medicine, and I got into medicine.
Oh.
I studied medicine
Mm.
At Imperial College. I was there for a year, and it was
Mm.
awful. It completely
Mm.
sucked. Um, the
What
people
sucked about it?
I think it was the environment. I think being away from home,
Mm.
um, community is a really, really important thing. Support networks are a really, really important thing.
Mm.
And a lot of the time, when we talk about stuff like depression, anxiety,
Yeah.
um, negative shifts in your mental health,
Yeah.
people need to know what you're like before for them to recognize, like, oh, there's a problem. Isaac doesn't usually
Yeah.
behave like this. But
Mm.
when you're in that new environment, no one really knows you.
Yeah.
So it's harder for them to be like, oh no, Isaac's been in his room for like 4 days. This isn't normal.
Yeah.
Someone should check on him. And I think just kind of being away from home, feeling like really isolated, studying a subject which I really, really didn't like. Medicine, the idea of medicine's great. The idea of helping people is great. Sitting down and learning the Krebs cycle is not fun. Um,
Mm,
and I just wasn't enjoying. I wasn't enjoying my subject.
mm,
And during that time, actually, I started writing a lot more poetry. I'd always like kind
mm,
of written stuff, but like that was the moment where I kind of properly sat down and was like, one of the ways I kind of dealt with that
mm,
loneliness, the isolation, was writing poetry. I got really, really involved with my drama society, the Men's
mm,
Drama Society Imperial as well. I was one of the assistant tech directors and tech directed a few plays. Like all in all, like was like the sciences sucked, the course sucked, and I kind of found myself drawn into more creative stuff just to deal with the whole situation. And
mm.
finally, and then obviously, that's all well and good, but you still have exams. I got to exams and failed my exams because your
Oh,
boy was not prepared.
mm.
Um,
Was it because
and
kind of you're just not motivated or
yeah,
kind of,
I think it's just the overall like the environment,
yeah.
my headspace, what was going on. It was just like
Mm,
I wasn't motivated to learn, didn't want to learn, wasn't really excited about medicine. But
mm.
did my exams, failed them, was because I'd had insomnia throughout most of first year,
Oh,
so
right.
I had extenuating circumstances as well. So
Oh, right.
doctors
Yeah,
were
yeah.
like, "Hey, yeah, you can retake these if you want and get to second year." Um, and I was in the process of preparing to retake my exams when my dad kind of, I don't even know how the conversation started, but he was like, "Is this really what you want? Like genuinely,
Yeah.
is this what you want? Are you like excited about this?" And I was like, "No, not really." And
Mm,
he's like, "Okay, well, what would you like to do?" And I was like, "Well,
mm,
I'd like to do something involving film, maybe. Like I know I like writing, I know I like stories." So we applied to NFTS, the National Film and Television Institute,
mm.
for a diploma for a year, and then like while we were waiting for, and the plan was do that diploma for a year and then go back to medicine afterwards. And while we were waiting for like the application to go through, my dad was just like, do you really want to go back? You know,
Mm.
like do you really want to go back to uni to study? And I was like, not really.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, well then then scrap all of that. Just find a new degree to do.
Yeah.
Um, and so this all happened like within the span of a week, and so really really quickly
Mm,
we started looking around for places I could apply for clearing through. Ravensbourne seemed one of my friends at church had gone to Ravensbourne, and
mm.
he really really loved it. So I looked into it, and I basically called the clearing person. I was like, "Hey, I have no qualifications. I don't have a portfolio.
Wow.
What course will you let me on?" And they're like, "Well, you can do a foundation, or you can do advertising, maybe, because we don't have a ton of people. It's a new course director.
Mm.
Like jump in, see how it goes." And I was like, "Are you sure?" Like legit, I have no experience. I can't use Photoshop. I can't use InDesign. And he was like,
Wow.
"No, no, it's fine. It's not a design course. It's like a thought course." And then yeah, and that's how I got on the course. Also, the clearing instructor lied to me because within the first week we were working on Photoshop and working on Illustrator. So thank you for that.
You were thrown in the deep end,
I
bro.
was thrown in the deep end. Yeah, but that's how someone who had no experience apart from like hobbies with creativity, but no academic experience with creativity, kind of
Mm,
somehow got into a creative course. Like, till this day, I'm still like it was definitely a God's grace situation. Like
mm.
things worked out in ways that they should not have worked out.
That's interesting, man. Because even for me, it's funny because for me, I always knew I'd do something artsy. I've always loved drawing.
Mm,
And so even whilst I was in secondary school, I was thinking maybe I might do animation. I'm thinking about it. And I actually chose courses that were in line with that. I knew what I was doing. My parents said, "Yep, we can't deny Nathan's got the talent for it."
mm,
And so, yeah, for me, I went sixth form as well. I did art at GCSE and A level and media studies. Um, and Yeah, I did my foundation diploma. It's funny because looking back, I'm thinking I probably would have done well in animation without doing the foundation year. Although the foundation year was still a great time where I met many people.
Mm.
I met Zachary, a guys who shout out Zach if he ever listens to this. He's also an animator and does. I don't know if you've been following him on Instagram, but yeah, he does great stuff merging music and animation. So
Mm.
yeah, I'm still trying to keep in touch with him, and hopefully we can still work on something at some point.
Yeah.
But
No
yeah,
time
so
is
I've met.
ever wasted. Like no time that you spend learning something is ever wasted. Like even like
Yeah,
my ridiculous pointless year in medicine. Um,
yeah,
like the thought process, the people I met, tons of stuff about that experience
mm,
still comes out in a lot of the things that I'm involved in now.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a learning curve for me as well. The
Mm.
foundation year, it gave me room to just experiment with the Adobe software because I'd never used Adobe software before, apart from Photoshop on one occasion in GCSE, but that was it. So that foundation year still gave me room to create, see if animation was still for me. Um, yeah, and then it also helped me in my application for other um, animation degrees elsewhere. But even though I still decided to stay at Ravensbourne.
Mm.
But yeah, so I think that's something we can both um, kind of agree on is that every moment you go through in life happens. There's always a lesson to learn in it, you know.
Yeah.
And it's good to have that sort of mindset when we're talking about just mental health and self perception, because it's
Mm.
the idea of, you know, it's down to us, right? It's down to us how we channel the experiences
Mm.
we go through.
Definitely.
Um,
But also,
yeah,
real quick, some experiences just suck.
yeah,
Like
exactly. Well, exactly,
some,
yeah,
some experiences are not fun.
yeah, no,
And
yeah,
I don't and you know, yes, definitely I think um there are really, really great things that can come out from some really even really bad experiences. There's some stuff that we can learn. I think
mm,
we would all prefer to learn those things in environments that don't suck. The question
exactly,
though, I guess, is like you said, like when we're going through really, really difficult experiences, I think there's an important recognition of one, this isn't going to happen forever, and
yeah,
two, this is going to be helpful at some point. But that doesn't mean that doesn't mean you shouldn't still know that it's difficult and know that it sucks and work
yeah,
through it.
yeah. I mean, if you go through a negative season, you should still try and do what you can to make that as non-excruciating as possible.
Yeah.
And that links quite well to the next thing I want to ask you, which is, you know, especially in that first year of doing medicine, you said you had insomnia. Um, how did you kind of realize that you weren't okay? Was it just you being aware of yourself, or did you kind of
Mm,
need someone else to help you process it? And how did you start going about getting help? You know?
Here's the thing, right? I think I didn't realize how bad that year was until maybe 2 years ago, like in my second year at
Mm,
Ravensbourne. Um, yeah, it was in my second year. So I have a lot of friends from Imperial, like tons of them are doctors now or in their
mm,
final year, almost doctors. And Sid, who's a really good friend of mine, like we used to hang out a lot in that first year. And every
mm,
time he met me, he'd be like, "Isaac, you look so tired." And I'd be like, "I am tired. I'm always tired. I'm constantly
mm.
tired all the time." Um, and then he met me, and then we were talking again in like second year. He's like, "Isaac, you look great," and I was like, "Huh." What changed? What has
Yeah.
shifted in that time? And I think just that whole year, the whole experience of that year really weighed heavily on me and weighed not just on my mental health but like physically on me as well.
Mm,
Um and I think it wasn't until like I was talking to Sid and had that realization of like, oh no, like I'm way happier now,
yeah.
and I recognized, oh, I was really unhappy then, and I just wasn't in a good place.
Mm. Okay, so you kind of it was important for you to have someone who could have that outside perspective, right?
Yeah.
Because that's something I hear a lot about bad mental health is that you kind of don't know when you're in it. And I think in a way I can relate to that as well, because even I remember during foundation, it was very I think at that point I started realizing I was good at animation, and then I started feeling this pressure of I have to do this so well. And like even before that, even during school, I've always been a perfectionist. I
Mm,
always went over the top. Looking back, I put in so much effort in my key stage 3 work, and it's like it meant nothing.
mm,
I know friends who were just messing around, and now they're doing well, doing pretty well paid jobs, and it's like
mm.
I was sweating key stage 3 for no reason. But I
Well,
mean, although it
it's
did
a
help
balance, though,
me,
isn't it?
yeah, it's a balance, right? And for me, I've always been on the workaholic side of things,
Mm,
and I've been I was such a workaholic that my final major project in my foundation year was about working too hard. Ironically, up to that point, it was the hardest, probably one of the hardest projects I've ever done, and I was doing it about trying to maintain a balance in life.
mm,
So that was quite funny. But yeah, at that time, now that I look back, it's like, how did I find that normal? Like, there were
mhm.
closer to the deadline. There were pretty much nearly all nighters that I did. I think there was a few nights what was it? I think I went to bed at 10 p.m., woke up at 3 a.m., worked until 7 a.m., went to uni, carried on. So it was not good. And at the time, I was thinking, this is just what I have to do to try and get the best grade possible. And even then, I didn't even get a distinction. I got a merit.
Mm.
So it was like, I've always felt like I work so hard, and the grade I get is like, eh,
Well, I think it's a twofer, isn't it? I think my mum always, I think when we're in that space, there we have a tendency to be like, I just need to do this. I
yeah,
just need to do this, just this. And whenever I say that to my mum always checks me on it. It's like there's no just anything.
yeah,
There's always going to be something else. So
there is, yeah,
if this thing that you're doing is not something that you're comfortable doing, um, then don't, or figure out another way to do it, or figure out a better way to do it. There is no just, there is always going to be another. So
yeah,
if this thing's going to lead to another of the things you don't want, then figure out how you can kind of change that narrative or go in a different
mm,
direction. But no, I so feel you. I
mm,
so feel you. There's so many times I've killed myself, like actually, like probably done myself physical and mental harm to
ooh,
finish stuff, and then I've done it, I've put it out in the world, and I've been like, wasn't worth it, wasn't worth it. I could have done it, and I
yeah,
could have maintained a better balance, a healthier disposition.
mm, yeah, definitely. Um, so yeah, I mean, let's go into the next part where we talk about. Let me get my questions up. One sec. That's the thing. I always have a plan, but I always end up going off it. So we've kind of talked about how you had someone to help you through that, and but also how did your creativity help you in um I guess stabilizing um your mental well-being in a sense.
Mm.
So you said during your year in medicine, and we can even go past that and start talking about the advertising and course that you did. Um, yeah, just talk about how, especially when you were doing your new course, how you know your growth in creativity kind of helped you. Is there a link there? Would you say that's an element in how you, um, I guess, had better confidence in yourself?
So yeah, and here's a lesson to anyone who starts anything new. Give yourself time to learn it.
Mm,
Um, that year of my first year of advertising also was awful.
mm.
Because it was really hard, and I was doing something I'd never done before. I was
Yeah,
learning things I'd never learned before. I was in
mm,
an environment where everyone else was way more talented than me.
yeah,
They knew more than me. They had more experience than me. And also, I'm not a perfectionist, but I like to be good at what I do. I'm very much
mm,
of the opinion if you're not the best at what you do or what you provide, then do something else. Like, what's the point? Like, if there's someone else who's
yeah,
doing it better than me, then why am I taking up space for them?
yeah,
Not that like, and I'm not even talking about it in a career sense. Like, there are going to be tons of people who are better illustrators than me, but is there going to be someone who combines my perspective with my experience with my concepts in as unique a way as I do? If there's someone
mm,
else who's in that lane, then I want to do something else. I want to do something that only I can do.
yeah.
Um, and I just was not feeling that throughout the whole of first year. I was not feeling that. I was like, what am I good at? What's the point of me being here? Should I change again? Should I change degrees every year, once a year for 4 years, and and have and have one third of four different degrees?
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure. I think my tutor at that time, he has a phrase which was trust the journey, and I
Mm,
think what really helped with that process was trusting the journey. Like, I'm not going to know everything now, but there'll be a point where I know more. And then
yeah.
there'll be a point where I know a bit more than that. And I'll know a bit more than that. So let's just get to that first point of knowing a bit more.
Mm,
Um, and let's leave all of these questions. Like, there's some questions I can answer. Am I happier here? Yes. Am I closer to the creative career that I want? Yes. Am I
mm,
surrounded by people who are really, really cool? Yes. Do I know what I want to be? No. Okay. Then let's leave that to a point where I can find out. Let's leave that to a point where I can answer that. And
yeah.
let's make the point that I'm at now about answering those questions in the future that I can't answer right now.
Mm,
Um, and yeah, and I think that mindset really helped specifically with anxieties around me creatively, but
mm,
also that mindset has kind of helped with me dealing with just general worries in life.
mm,
Like, there are some worries that are actionable. Like, if
yeah.
you're worried about a test, study for the test.
Mm,
Um, but like, if you're worried what your tutor is going to think of you, you can't really control that.
you can't.
So there's less point worrying about those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and to kind of like to fill your mind, to fill your environment, to fill your perspective. Um, when you find yourself worrying about those things, to specifically things you can't control, to fill your mind with other things, and to
Yeah.
find other better ways of taking up time and taking things that can take up residence in your brain.
Mm. Yeah, that's so good. Let's start talking about Enough Said and kind
Mm,
of what triggered that. So obviously Enough Said is centered on, you know, not just talking about diversity in the creative industries at a face value level, because a lot
mm,
of people talk about diversity. We've seen various films have black versions of this character and that character, and we've seen progress. Well, from my perspective, I think mainly in terms of the film industry, but I guess there's a lot of crossover with
the
fashion
creative
and
industry as well. Yeah,
advertising and stuff like that.
definitely.
But yeah, now it's come to the point where we want to see more nuanced perspectives of
Mm.
black identity.
Well, it's
In a sense, like it's
like
not.
it's a bit
Yeah.
about, sorry, go on.
Sorry, I'll let you continue.
No, I was just gonna be like, nah, yeah, but also like, we've wanted that for time.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah, for time, yeah, definitely.
like we've. This is I always whenever Enough Said talks to clients or we talk to different agencies and they're like, and yes,
Mm.
this is a thing that like, it's really ahead right now and we want to deal with it. And I'm like, this has been a problem for ages, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
Like, this is not the first time. If we're talking about the Black Lives Matter protests, like, this is not the first time an innocent black person has been shot and killed
oh yeah, yeah,
in America,
definitely. Yeah.
you know?
Mm,
Um, this is not the first time that we've looked at the creative industry and gone, yeah, it's majorly male and white, you know?
mm-hmm,
Um, these have been issues for ages.
mm-hmm,
I think if we're going to specifically talk about Nuff Said, there was
mm-hmm,
an article about 2.5 years ago written by
mm,
Jahid Hussein in Intern magazine, which
mm,
was called Whitewashed. And it was all about how he had basically never been taught by someone who looked like him. And we read the
mm,
article and we realized
Yo,
That's
that's
really
true.
true. Did you just do you feel that as well?
I felt that. I felt that. I felt.
Like, yeah, it's
Hang on.
how insane is that?
Yeah. Apart from maybe like the odd teacher in secondary
Hmm.
school, like, and even then, the black teachers, then the black teachers I had were just for a short period of time. I think
Hmm.
that there was a Ghanaian teacher I had in my secondary school who taught maths. He just taught us statistics, and occasionally he'd teach us in PE. And then there was a black female teacher who we only had for a short amount of time doing history, and she was even a supply teacher. I don't think she was the
Yeah,
main teacher.
legit. No,
But apart
exactly
from
the
that,
same.
never ever had. And then
How
I
and
had like an Asian
crazy.
teacher for science, and that was it.
It's so crazy. It's actually insane.
Yeah.
I've been alive for 22 years. I've maybe been taught by two or three people that look like me.
Mm,
How does that even make any sense?
yeah.
And when we realized that, we were like, okay, but that's been our experience for like 20 years. What
Mm,
happens when we go into the creative industry, which looks the
mm,
same? Do we want to spend our entire lives not being mentored by anyone that looks like us, not working with anyone that looks
mm.
like us,
Yeah.
like
That's
not?
the see, and again, that's the 9 to 5 trap, right? Like,
Mm,
I mean, it's interesting how God works. Me and you, we both believe in God, and we believe we don't believe in coincidences. So it's amazing because I'm thinking, even looking at the state of the NHS now, like to be what were you studying for again to become?
I was
Like,
studying
what's the
medicine. I was going to be a doctor.
being a doctor? I mean, especially black doctors, they don't have it easy. They really don't. They're
Mm,
given the more difficult shifts, um, and from what I've heard, I've got family relatives working in the NHS, and it's been really draining for them. So it's like, maybe it's for the better that you've ended up going in a more
oh,
creative route.
it's definitely for the
Yeah,
better. It's
definitely.
definitely for
Yeah.
the better. Um,
So, yeah.
but yeah, I think thinking enough said kind of came about because of that, and we were thinking, and for us, it was all about how do we create change that we want to see in the industry.
Yep.
Can we make it so that the industry is ready for the next generation of creatives who are
Mm,
already diverse? If you look at
yeah.
places like Ravensbourne, if you look at some not the whole of UAL, but if you look at some of the courses on UAL, you see a diverse cohorts who are going to be graduating soon and want to be in places that recognize their difference, see that as a
Mm,
valuable creative asset, and are capable of communicating to and drawing out that difference so that it can come up can become a part of more interesting creative solutions, more interesting creative products.
mm,
And that's kind of what we've been doing so far. We've had a couple of events where
mm.
we've tried to bring together really, really cool, diverse creatives who own their own platforms or building really cool stuff, introducing them to the industry or introducing them to students, introducing students to industry, just as
Wow.
many different people in the same room as possible so they can cross insights and learn from each other and grow together.
I'm afraid that is the end of this part of this interview. Stay tuned for the next part of the interview in the next episode. Thanks for listening. Peace.